Oh, great.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're there.
I guess
Well,
so.
good morning, everybody. It's Peter here from AJS, and it's my privilege to welcome Cath this morning, who's going to do a session on stacking rings. And this is going to be a regular event with AJS, where we conduct regular online demos from workshops all around Australia. And this week we're coming to you from Mount Nebo, and a sunny Mount Nebo there by the looks, Cath.
Yeah.
Which is great. So just before we get into it, would you like to please explain what stacking rings are?
Yeah, sure. So stacking rings are like smaller bands, like regular rings, but just a lot narrower. Traditionally, I've seen some chunkier ones, but the ones I'm making today are quite thin and narrow, and you can stack them up. So I've got one on today. This is one that we'll be making, but you can stack them. So you could wear 2 or 3 or 4, and they can be different patterns, or they could have different details on them. And when they're all together, they sit nice and flat, like a bigger, chunkier ring.
Oh, great. Excellent. Okay, well, let's get into it. Where do we start, Cath?
Okay, so I'm going to start with cutting some sterling silver wire. So we're going to make 3 stacking rings today. We're going to make a smooth band like the one I'm wearing, a textured one, which is going to have some nice hammered texture. And then I'm also going to make another smooth one with a little dot detail that we're going to use by heating up some scrap and turning it into a little ball to solder on. So we'll start with the smooth one. I've got some 1.5 millimeter solid sterling silver round. So just circle, very round, very plain. But I'm just going to measure with a ruler the size I want. I'm going to go for around a Q, just so they're all the same, which I know a Q has the inside millimeter of around 57 centimeters. So on my ruler, I'm going to line up the silver with the top of the ruler, and I'm going to count to 57, and then we need to make a little bit of room for the actual band. So I'm going to add a few extra millimeters plus anything we're going to file off in the process. So I start with the inside circumference, which is 57, and I'm going to add a few extra millimeters. So about 61, 62. I'm going to take my wire snips. I'm just going to cut the wire. Like that.
So just while you're on that, Cath, AJS have just developed a little digital online ready reckoner where you can just input what size ring you want, the thickness of your ring, and it'll tell you how long a piece of metal you need. So,
oh, brilliant. Yeah, that'd be really handy. I normally just add a few millimeters, and then because I use a mandrel and a mallet, I kind of adjust it and hammer it out if I need to make it bigger as well. But yeah, that would be super handy.
Yeah, so that's available on the AJS website from our design centre. Yeah.
Oh, brilliant.
No worries.
All right, the next thing we're going to do is anneal the wire, because at the moment it's a bit stiff, it's a bit hard to bend. So we're going to heat it up, and that softens the metal, it loosens the atoms and makes it easier to work with. So I'm going to place it on my little soldering station. This is a honeycomb block. I find that this is the best to use because it kind of heats around the whole piece. You can use something like this, just a plain, I think might even be a brick from a pizza oven, because it can withstand those really hot temperatures. Mm-hmm. So you can use just a flat surface like that, but I like to use the honeycomb block. So I'm going to place it on there. And this is my torch. You can use any kind of torch. I like this bigger one because I feel over time I've gained more control, and I can tell when a piece is annealed or when the solder has run. But you can definitely use a smaller torch like this one. Works just as well. And I've just got a butane can on the bottom. So we're going to heat this up. I'm going to just keep moving. If you stay in one spot, you'll melt the metal. So I just keep moving until it reaches like a dull red color. And then I take my tweezers, and I have a jar of water here that I'm just going to quench it in. So now it's all annealed and it bends a lot easier. The next step we're going to do is file the ends so they're nice and flat. Because at the moment we've just freshly snipped them. They're all rough. They're not going to join up. So I'm going to grab my file. Move this out of the way. This is the file that I use. You can also use a Dremel, which is what I use day to day, but just for the purpose of this video, I'm going to show you how I use my file. I just place it on a surface so it's nice and steady. I grab my wire and I just, sorry if that noise is a bit too much, and I just go back and forth like this until the end's flat. So this end's nice and flat. It's probably hard to see.
Yeah,
it's
we
a nice
can see
flat
that.
end. Okay, brilliant. And then I'll do the other side. Needs a bit more. Okay, now this end's nice and flat. I'm going to join the two ends together. So I can bend this now with my hands because we annealed it, we softened the metal, but I can't bend it all the way. So I'm going to use some pliers. I've got these. This is a flat and then a half round set of pliers, which is great for rings. So you put the half round on the inside and you use the flat just to kind of coast it gently around. Like this. You don't want to squeeze too hard when you're making a smooth band because you can indent the metal. And I just line it up the best I can. And then I kind of use my fingers to just jimmy it back and forth. And the goal is to just basically make that gap disappear. The smaller the gap, the better the ring will look in the end. And then I have some flat pointy nose pliers, and I kind of just press down a little bit just to help me line it up, but not too much because you don't want to dent the silver. Okay. So I'm just still, it takes a little bit of time just to get it perfect. Okay, so now that's lined up, it's nice and flat. It's time to solder. So we're going to bring back my little soldering station. Place the ring on the honeycomb block. And I've got some flux here. Flux is a compound, it's like a hard compound, and you mix it with water to make like a wet paste. And it's good for cleaning the join, and it helps the silver solder run. So I'm going to flux the join. So just put a little bit and just coat the join. That's all you need. And then I'm going to take some sterling silver solder. This is medium, perfect for just like your basic stacking rings and stuff. You can also get solder in medium and in hard and easy, but medium is the best for what we need here. I'm going to take my little snips again. I'm going to cut off probably 2 millimeters of solder. I'm just going to place it in a spot where I'm not going to lose it. And then we get my tweezers. These are really fine titanium tweezers. I'm going to get my little piece of solder and I'm going to place it on the join where I just fluxed. All right. Now I'm going to get my torch again. I'm just going to go around the ring, heating up the whole thing. Sometimes the solder will move or jump, and that's okay. You just cut off another piece. So I'm just going to go around the whole thing. If you stay in one spot, you'll melt the silver. So you just want to go around, heating up the whole piece, and then the solder will melt, and it just did. Now I'm going to quench it again in my jar of water. Now you'll see where the solder has run. And then we've got a bit of a wonky ring. So the next step is to shape it. So yeah, now it's solid. The join's not moving. It looks nice and flat. It's all ready to be put on the mandrel. So this is the mandrel that I use. It doesn't have markings because they've all rubbed off. So I keep a little one with like the A to Z, and then it has all the different measurements and circumferences on the other side. And I just put this on here. I kind of use my hands to bring it down as much as I can. And then I get my mallet. This is a leather mallet. It's perfect for this because it's soft. It's not going to dent the metal. It's just going to shape it. So I'm going to knock it down, the mandrel first, This will just make sure it's sitting nice and flat. And it will make the ring nice and level. You don't want a wonky stacking ring because they won't stack nice together. So I'm going to bring it down until it looks like it's nice and flat and snug to the mandrel. And then I'm going to go all the way around. And this just makes sure it's that nice circle shape. And then once we're done and I'm happy with that, I can see there's no gaps. It's sometimes hard to pull off, so I just give it a couple of little taps upwards like that. And the ring just pulls off. And now we have a smooth stacking ring like that. I've prepared some pickle. That's the next step in my little hot soup mug. This is 1 part salt to 8 parts white vinegar. I find that works the best. And then you can also add a little bit of this pickle, or you could use this alone. This is sodium hydrogen sulfate, and that works as well. So I'm just going to give this a little mix. I heated this up before because I find warm pickle works a lot better than cold. And I'm just going to place that in there. And while that's in there, I'm going to make our next ring. So the next ring is going to be a textured stacking ring. So I'm going to get my wire again, my 1.5 millimeter round. I'm going to measure it to 57 millimeters, except this time I'm only going to add a little bit more, so maybe 58, 59. And the reason for this is when I texture it later, it'll actually stretch the ring and change the size. So you want to make it a little bit smaller. So I've just measured that on the ruler. So about 59, 60 millimeters. And then I'm going to anneal it. So at the moment, if I was just going to make a smooth stacking ring like this, it'll be too small for the size I want. But after we anneal it and stretch it out and add some texture, it'll be hopefully the size we need. So I'm going to place it on the honeycomb block again. We're going to anneal it to soften the metal. It's back and forth. Until you get that dull red color again. And I'll get my tweezers. Pick it up. Sometimes get stuck to the block. There we go. And quench it in the water. And now we can mold it with our hands. Oh wait, first we need to file the ends. So I'll get my file out again. Place it on the desk. You don't want to file in the air because it's not going to be as effective. You want a solid surface to lean on. And just file. File the ends so they're nice and flat. Done one. And the other. And that one's nice and flat as well. And because we annealed it, we can now bend it with our hands. So I'm going to bring the points as close together as I can, just with my fingers. And now I'm going to use my pliers to make it a little bit rounder and to bring those points together. But don't squeeze too hard. Actually, with this ring, it doesn't matter because it's going to be textured anyway. So if you accidentally dent the metal a little bit, that's fine because we won't be able to see it once we add the hammered texture. So you can see that joins nice and close. Now I'm going to bring back the soldering station, place it on our honeycomb block. You can see. Add a little bit of flux. I just mix it up. It comes in a pot that looks like this, the flux, and then I just take a little bit out in this little jam jar, add a little bit of water and mix it up. I find that works the best for me. And then I just grab a little bit on my pick, flux the join, And I grab my medium silver solder and my snips, and then I cut off 2 to 3 millimeters again, just a little bit, put it somewhere safe. I grab my tweezers, pick up the solder, and then I place it on top of the join. All right, and now I heat it up again with my torch. Just in circle motions again. Heat up the whole ring. Then you'll see the solder will start to shimmy, it'll start to glisten a little bit, and then you'll see it just melt into the ring. That's what we want. We'll quench it again in the water. And then we have another soldered ring. The next thing we're going to do is put it on our mandrel, and we're going to shape it like we did with the first ring. So bring it down as much as you can with your fingers. Grab your leather mallet and just tap it down, tap it into place.
So you've done a bit of that in your time, Cath.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you're an expert at it.
Especially for markets where I'm making up to 50 at a time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. You just kind of get into a routine.
I bet.
So I bring that down. Here's where you can kind of stretch the metal a little bit. If you feel like you've made it a little bit small, you can stretch it. You can even take it off, heat it up a little bit more to anneal it even further. Put it back on and stretch it out to the size that you need. That looks good. And then we'll go round.
So what if you felt you made it too big? Would you have to actually just cut it and take a bit off? Or...
Yeah, I normally just cut it. I just use my side snips to cut it. I file down the ends again, and then I resolder.
Right, yeah.
All right, and so now we've got to the point where we want to add some texture. So I've got my tiny little hammer, and it's got a little rounded head and a flat head, but we're just going to use the rounded because we're going to get that nice hammered look with it. If we use the flat, it would just kind of flatten the whole piece, and we want that kind of dimpled effect. So I'm just going to go round, hold it steady, and I kind of lean my arm on the table just for extra support, and I use the little rounded head just to go around. And add some texture. I hope that sound isn't too piercing.
Actually, it seems to mute you when you start doing the hammering. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That might be a good thing. It can be quite intense over the phone.
Yeah.
I quite like the hammered texture. I think it might be my favorite of the stacking rings I make because it gives like an extra shiny effect. Reflects the light in different ways. And you can kind of stop here if you want, just so it's like light texture, but I'm going to add a little bit more because I like to really see the dents in the metal. And the same, you could use like a really light hand if you just wanted that really subtle look, or you could like really go at it if you want the really harsh textured finish. I'm kind of going in between those. And as we're doing it, you can see we started about up here, and as I'm hammering, it's also stretching out the metal and it's moved down a little bit. So it's gone up about a size just from adding the texture. So that's something you have to think about, and that's something we did at the start. We didn't add extra length like I did with the first one, because the ring will stretch itself here. All right, I think we're done. So we'll take that one off. You can see it's a nice circle shape because we rounded it and it's got that texture that we want. I'm going to put it in my pickle cup as well. So it's going in like this dark color, and that's because we've got a lot of dirt, we've got a lot of oxidation on the surface. So when we put it in the pickle, this is what our other one looks like now, nice and white, like a pearly white color, and it means it's just been pickled. So that's what will happen to all three when we're done. So
how long is that first one, is that done yet or not?
Yeah, that's all done. It really depends on the batch of pickle, and over time the pickle can go off, or you can accidentally, what's the word? You can like put like if a little bit of stainless steel goes into the pickle, it can make it turn and it won't work anymore. Okay. So it really just depends on the batch. I find the fresher the batch of pickle, the quicker you get that nice pearly white finish.
Yeah, if it was contaminated, you'd have an issue.
Yeah, that's the word. Yeah, contaminated. All right, so now on to our last ring, which is going to be a smooth band like the first one, but we're going to add a little bit of detail to the top. So when you stack them all together, you'll see a little ball, which I think is nice. So we're going to get our 1.5 millimeter round and our ruler. We're going to go to 57 millimeters again. If you want a size Q, of course you can make this to any size you want. And then I'm going to add just a few extra millimeters, or you could use the AJS converter. So I'm going to go to about 60, 61, 62 millimeters again. Let me slip that off. Bring our little soldering station over, place the wire on there, and we're going to anneal it again. So just back and forth. Our tweezers, pick it up and quench it in our water. Now I'm not going to use the file this time. I'm actually going to use my Dremel just to show everyone how I normally make stacking rings, because I'm making quite a lot. I find that this is the easiest to use. I just use Dremel. You can use, I think Flex Shaft is a really common brand as well. But I just have a little sanding disc on the end. Just turn it on, and that's how I file the ends. And I'm done. So that's much quicker for me than using the file, but of course if you don't have a Dremel, the file works just as good. So the next thing we're going to do is shape it with our fingers, because we've just annealed it, and we've flattened the edges so the edges will match up now. So I just get it to that stage where I can't join them anymore without tools, and then I use my half round pliers and just bring those ends closer together. It can be a bit fiddly, but once you get it, it makes so much difference. Use my other ones just to flatten it a little bit. Helps it line up. All right, and then when you run your finger across, you should barely be able to feel the join. Just a little bit, if anything. That's nice and close. Now we're going to solder. Flux the join. Cut a little bit of medium solder, 2 to 3 mil. Got my tweezers here. I'm going to pick it up and place it where we've just fluxed. Or did we flux? Can't remember if we flux. I'm going to flux again. There we go. then place it on top. Then we're gonna do the same thing we did to all the others and just go around in circles. So heating up the whole ring, not staying in one spot. And you'll see that solder start to change texture. It'll become runnier, it'll start to shimmer, and then it will melt into the joint, which is what just happened. Okay, your tweezers again. And quench it in the water. And then that's all soldered. You can see it's a slightly different color. It makes it easier to see where you've just joined the gap. Now we're going to round it out. So grab the mandrel and the mallet, and we're going to tap it down. Like that, and then go around the outside. Make sure it's really round. You don't want a wonky ring. And I'm just going to give it a couple of little taps upwards, just so it's easy for me to take off the mandrel. We have a round ring. Now the next thing we're going to do is add a little dot detail. Now for this, I've just gotten a tiny little piece of scrap. This is just an offcut from another ring I was working on. It's tiny. I think it's also 1.5 millimeter round, just for reference, and it's probably 8 millimeters long. And we're going to turn this into a tiny little ball. So what I do is I don't use my honeycomb block for this, because when it turns into a ball, it falls into the holes, which we don't want that because we'll never get it out. So I'm just going to move that to the side, and just on a flat surface, I'm going to place my scrap. Add a little bit of flux. I find this just helps speed up the process. And we're just going to heat it, and it'll go from that little rod into a nice silver ball. This is a great way to use up any scrap you have. I have quite a lot, so I find I'm always reaching into the scrap jar to add little details. I also use gold for this as well. Works just as well. Exactly the same. I'm just going to go around. And now it's a nice little ball. So we're going to grab it with our tweezers, clench it, and then I'll try and show you. See? So it just went from being a piece of like scrap to a nice little ball detail. So what I do now is I bring back my honeycomb block, I place my ring, and I find the join, because I find we're going to be soldering the dot onto the ring, and the best place to do that is the join, because it will help hide it as well. Why solder it onto a perfect part of the ring when you can cover what we've just been working on? So grab the ring, put it on my honeycomb block, and I find that this type of block is perfect for working with the ball details, because once you've made them, you can kind of use the holes in the surface to hold it in place. So I find the join, and then I kind of just place my little ball detail on top of the join, or next to the join. Add my flux, and you want to add it now in between the ball and the ring. Then I cut some solder, the same length, probably 2 to 3 millimeters long. Grab my tweezers and place it in the gap, or as close to the gap as you can get it. Now we're going to heat it up, and the solder will run in between the ring and the ball, which will join them together. Around in circles, but mainly focusing on that ball, because we want to also heat that up. So you can only go around and then hit the ball a little bit. So around, and then just hold it on the ball, around, and then we'll see the solder run. And pick it up. It's very hot, but you can see now we've got the little ball on top of the ring.
Beautiful.
So, thank you. Now we're going to quench it.
Oh, Cath, I'll just share with you, we've got lots of enthusiastic viewers,
Oh, really?
including Dana Mac. And,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they're all helping each other answer their questions, so it's really great.
Oh, that's so nice.
Yeah.
Hi, Dana.
Oh, there is just a question about the pickle.
Yeah.
So Dana said you can also use bicarb soda vinegar mix, if I remember correctly, 1 to 8, but Cath can confirm.
Yeah, I don't use bicarb soda, but I've heard that's something else you can use. I did a little Google before, and there's so many different pickle recipes, so it's really just personal preference.
Okay. Yeah. No worries.
Cool. So we're actually going to pickle this ring now. So it's nice and it's dark, it's oxidized, it won't polish up nice like that. So we're going to place it in the pickle. And while that's pickling, we're going to take our other 2 rings out. So now they're nice and white. You can see they're this nice pearly white color. We'll put that to the side. And I've got a container here, which is just water and a little bit of dish soap. So you can see soapy, there's some bubbles in there. I'll place them in there. Then I have a brass wire brush. These are really handy, especially for removing pickle. You can just throw them straight into your tumbler if you have a tumbler, like this one. This is mine. So basically when this is all done, I put them in here and it removes the pickle and it makes them really shiny without me having to really do anything. So that's great for large volumes, or if you want to get that like really, really pretty like high shine effect, you can use a tumbler. That one's just from eBay as well. And then, so what we're going to do is we're going to get our ring and we're going to just run over it with the wire brush.
That brush has had some work too, by the looks.
It has had a lot of work.
You got your money out of that one.
Oh, yeah. And I go through them as well. I think this is maybe my 3rd or 4th one.
Okay.
So just run back and forth and then just dip it so you get the soap. Do all the sides. Then I'll just go around the outside. It's the most important part. And this just removes that kind of white, scaly surface that you get from pickling. This makes it nice and shiny. I've just got a little towel here. Just going to dry it off. And you'll see it's a nice shiny ring. Put it on.
Beautiful.
Yeah. You can go further. You can, if you feel like you need to clean up the solder a little bit, or if the joint is a little bit rough, grab your file again, place your ring on a surface, or if you have a bench peg, you can rest it on there. Then you grab your file and you just really lightly run over the surface. Now we'll just take off any rough edges, or you can grab your Dremel and you can use a sanding disc. And I also have these heads as well that are really handy. They're like silicon sanding bits, and you can get different grits. And they go all the way from like a rough finish to a really high shine mirror finish. They're really handy as well. All right. And now we'll do our other ring that's in the soapy water. So this is our textured band. We just did our smooth band. We're going to grab our wire brush again, make sure it's wet and soapy, and then just go around the whole surface of the ring.
So, Cath, what does a ring sell for, say, at the markets, for example?
I sell these. These are the exact ones I have on my website and at markets, and I sell them for $30 each. When I first started out, I think I was only selling them for around 18. And over time, I realized I really need to be paying myself more because a lot of time and effort goes into each ring, and also just experience over the years. But yeah, I sell them for $30.
Indeed. No, you need to get something out of it, that's for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
And the customer's definitely going to get something out of it. So,
yeah. So I just went around the front and the back faces, and I'm going to go around the edges. And this is where we added the texture. So you'll be able to see, I'll show you when I'm done, just how shiny it comes up.
So how do your fingers go with that wire brush? Should you be wearing gloves or not?
I find it's quite easy to control, and you've got quite a bit of room to go around, so it's not actually touching my fingers. And this one's quite soft. You can get harder ones as well, but I find the softer the better because it just kind of molds to the ring.
Okay.
As you brush. Yeah.
A question from one of our viewers.
I think it's a little bit more on this side. We'll dry it off. And there's a nice textured band. I hope you can see the texture.
Yeah, we can now. Yeah.
Yeah,
you get the different light refracting from different angles.
Yeah, that's why it's my favorite, I think, because it's extra shiny. All right, and then our last ring should be finished pickling. The dot ring, yeah. So take it out of the pickle. With pickle, I only really use plastic tweezers, because if you use anything other than plastic and I think copper, it can, what was that word again? I forgot, contaminate the pickle.
Contaminate, yeah.
Yeah, contaminate the pickle. So take it out, and then it's nice and white, and I'll put it in the soapy water. Rinse it off a little bit, and then wire brush it like we did with the others. Just go over the dot lightly and then around the actual sides.
We've got a question. Can you use steel wool instead for that job?
You can, really soft steel wool, but be careful, it might scratch it. It might give it like a matte effect.
Right.
Instead, I find the brushes are the best, and they're also easier to hold as well.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you for the question and the answer.
All right, now we'll dry this one off. And then I have a polishing cloth here too, so I'm just going to run over all 3 rings with the polishing cloth. This one has a compound like woven into it, so it's really handy for just polishing things up. I also take this to markets. It's great if I'm looking for something to do at markets. I just pick up a piece and stand and polish it. Everything's nice and shiny. All right, and now put them on. We'll put, I think, the smooth one first. So this is, you can wear them alone or you can stack them up. This is where stacking comes in. We'll do the textured next. Like that. And then we'll do the dot. And there we go. We've got 3 stacking rings. And you can see on the other side, they all sit nice and close together. Kind of just looks like one thick band.
That's amazing, Cath. In 3/4 of an hour, you've created 3 rings ready to wear out.
Yeah.
Now you just got to choose the rest of the outfit.
Yeah, exactly.
That's fantastic. Yeah.
Thank you. Well, from here, what I normally do when I'm making my orders and stuff is I do use my Dremel and my disc and my little silicone tools I showed earlier, and I just clean up anything that I feel needs to be neatened up a little bit. Like if there was a little bit of extra solder, I'd get that off, and then I'd put it in my tumbler for 20 minutes, half an hour, and then all done.
Excellent, Cath. Yeah. No, I'm sure people have got a lot out of that. I know I certainly have, and I reckon I'd give it a crack.
Yeah, definitely. It's not hard to do. Yeah, just step by step.
Yeah, and you've explained it really well. So thank you so much for your contribution there today. Really appreciate it. And we've got another session coming up with you in, when are we doing that?
25th
later
of
in February.
Yeah.
And Cath's going to be talking about celestial inspired earrings. Do you want to just give us a little brief teaser on that one?
Yeah, sure. So I do a lot of like nature and space inspired jewelry, and in the past I've made like lunar and solar earrings. So one would be like little suns or like little half moons. So I think we might do a little moon and then a little, maybe a planet, and I'll also show you how I make my ear wires as well.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah, we look forward to that. So thank you everyone for watching online. This will be a resource for people to watch in the future as well, and I'm sure they'll enjoy that. And Cath, we look forward to catching up with you again at the end of February.
Yeah, sounds great. Thank you.
Thank you very much.